Welcome to Student News Breakdown. I'm Madison Gabbert.
And I'm Livia.
Now, there was a new docuseries released on Netflix called Conversations with the Killer, the Ted Bundy Tapes, and we're here to give you all of our input on it.
Ted Bundy is a serial killer in the 1970s, I believe.
Yeah, in the 1970s. He started in 1974.
Yeah, so 1970s, 1980s, somewhere around there. So he's not alive anymore.
So Netflix just came out with a new documentary series on Ted Bundy. It's called
Conversation with the Killer, the Ted Bundy Tapes. And the journalists were Stephen G. McCod and Hugh Ainsworth. And it was directed by Joe Berlinger. It came out January 24th of this year, 2019. So basically, these journalists in the 1980s created this documentary, and they went to talk to Ted Bundy when he was on death row. They filmed it, with the tape recorder, so not an actual camera. But later on, Netflix, or the director, Joe, ended up creating this documentary about it, and it's a 4-part series, and I think each episode is 45 minutes to an hour long. I've watched about half of it, and I'm honestly very intrigued hearing about him and his childhood, and he sounds like a normal person when he was younger. But then as he grows up, you just kind of hear how manipulative he is and how he changes, and his escapes were it was crazy to hear how easily he escaped. He jumped out the window, and then he was just gone.
Yeah, if he was accused of killing all these people, you would think that they would put some type of protection. They wouldn't just put him in a room on his own to allow him to jump out a window.
Exactly. They said the sheriff went in there, and then it was in the courtroom, so he was preparing to go to court, so it was in the building of it. The sheriff went in there, and then he left, and when the sheriff came back, Ted Bundy was gone, and they said he jumped out the window and he ran into the mountains. And I was like, how? It was just crazy. And then but he was only out for I don't know how many days it was.
4 days.
It wasn't that long.
It was 4 days, and then whenever he escaped for the second time, he crawled through the roof of his jail cell.
He lost weight to fit through it. He weighed down to 140 pounds, and then he cut the ceiling out, I don't know.
He went through the light in the ceiling, and he escaped from the entire prison, and he was gone for over about 2 months.
Yeah, it was right now, because that's the part I am in it. It talks about 45 days, and it was around 45, 46 days, and it was when Kimberly Leach went missing, and that was the last day, and then around that time, he took Kimberly. The police ended up arresting him because they saw him driving, and they thought he was a reckless driver. They didn't realize, though, because he was in a different state than where he previously was in, right?
Yeah, so a lot of these women were going missing. A lot of the women he kidnapped and killed, they were going missing in all these different states, but none of the states were working together, so they didn't connect any of the murders together.
They didn't put the pieces together. So he was driving a brown Volkswagen Bug, and they arrested him as reckless driving. He gave them a false name because back then it was easy to get away with a misidentification because they didn't have pictures on their IDs, as now you have your name, date of birth, everything, but they had that, but we have our picture to identify us. They didn't have that, so he gave a false name, and so because he gave a false name, they weren't able to connect that he was previously in jail and is wanted. So when Kimberly went missing, all this stuff was going on, and that's where I am right now. So I don't really know what else has happened after that, but it's honestly very interesting. I'm intrigued, and just how they got him to talk in third person was one of the creepiest things to listen to him.
He didn't want to talk as himself because he wanted to make himself sound innocent. So the journalist decided to have him talk in third person as if he was the person murdering the people, because he had a degree in psychology, so the journalist manipulated him to talk about the murders and what the person would do as he was in their brain, which he was the person that did it, so he easily went over it, and that made him sound like he was the one that did it.
And Ted was a law student, so all these people, I heard when he kidnapped the witness that they ended up using, which got him into jail. So he kidnapped this girl, and she ended up escaping. So when Ted got arrested later on, and he matched the description of when this girl got kidnapped. And she went down to a lineup and identified him and said, that's my kidnapper. And some people didn't believe her because he's this great, big law student. And, why would he do that? And he's such a charismatic person. And he's so nice. And, he he's not an angry human that would ever kidnap someone. So.
Yeah, no one believed that he was actually it. Whenever he was in court, he decided to be his own lawyer and try and fight her for his own innocence, and he believed that would work for himself. And it ended up not working, so the jury convicted him of the death penalty, and he ended up, later, these new lawyers came in and tried to prove him innocent, like, a couple weeks before he died. And so they just kept trying to get him to a new, like, give him a new court date and let him be proved innocent, and it ended up not working. So, like, 1 or 2 days before he actually died, he ended up confessing to killing about 24 women, and he still actually ended up killing like 30
plus.
Yeah, 30 plus women, kidnapping and killing them. But he admitted to killing all these women and saying where they were and admitting he was guilty. So he had just kind of given up.
I actually heard that he was trying to like bargain with the judge and stuff to keep him like, he said, if you keep me alive, like, I'll tell you who else I killed. And some people wanted to keep it. He was 42, so he was like mid-age, like, I would say. So some people wanted to keep him alive to know like who else he killed and like where he buried them, because some of these women are still like not discovered. Like, they don't know where they went.
Yeah, some of the women they don't even know. They know that he killed women. They know how many he killed. They don't even know who all the women are.
Exactly.
There's like, I counted. They had up on the screen on one of the scenes, and it was 30-something women, like 31 women, and 11 of them were just women and from what state they were. They didn't have a name, didn't have a picture, they didn't have anything.
Yeah, so
they had no
weren't
idea
even
who they
identified, and it was like...
It was crazy how many people he actually killed.
And got away with. And it's... Because I heard when he went to law school, he was able to realize, like, what police did when there were homicides and, like, what they didn't do. So he was able to use that information and become...
He worked with the police for a small amount of time to, like, see what they're looking for and get around what the police were actually looking for in finding a killer. So they did, like, he did the opposite of what they were looking for.
He was a narcissist as well.
He was a narcissist.
Yeah, he was confident in himself, and that's why he basically was
he was his own lawyer.
That's why he was his own lawyer, because he was a narcissist and he was very confident in himself. So, I'm going to finish the Ted Bundy tapes soon. I think everyone else should watch it. It was a really interesting documentary, but that's about all we have for the news today. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm Livia.
And I'm Madison Gabbert. This has been Student News Breakdown.